I remember a few videos back when I did that story and I talked about UFC and TNA at that store, Forbidden Planet, and I said that there was a huge stand of UFC figures, huge stand of WWE based stuff, and then on the floor there was some TNA stuff scattered. Just want to give you an update on that little floor. Yeah, there's no TNA stuff in that place, so that should tell you all you need to know right there. A lot of people for the last couple of years, I think specifically since this PG rating came back in WWE, a lot of people have talked about how the PG rating is hurting the product and how they can't watch it because it's too PG and it's too kid friendly and it's too childish for them to watch now, and that they would rather go back to an era that's, you know, they fondly remember the Attitude Era, that late 90s, early 2000 era when wrestling was at the height of its popularity, when everybody and their mother was watching WWF, when you had these controversial characters like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and Mick Foley and Vince McMahon and Triple H, etc., etc., and the storylines and everything that was going on in that era, and how people would rather see that era reborn now than the PG era. And I think what spurred it even more was when CM Punk, actually no, before that, when The Rock came back, I think a lot of fans kind of got interested again. I know a lot of people who used to watch the WWF back then who stopped watching around 2002, and it wasn't because of a PG era, they just stopped watching it. And then when they would sporadically come back, they didn't like the PG direction very much. And it was only when The Rock came back that interest kind of was renewed, because it was something from that era that had come back. And for a lot of people, you know, the lead character of that era, The Rock, and the lead character of the current era, John Cena, and you could kind of just see where the flaws were. And a lot of people were interested again, and then when Rock kind of phased out again, people lost interest, and it went very, you know, the Cena era of domination. And then we fast forward to that fateful promo with CM Punk, when he said the things that he said, and a lot of people were like, wow, it's just like Stone Cold Steve Austin, it's just like 1998. And so many people had different ideas coming off of this promo. So many people had different thoughts coming off of this promo. And I will say again, a lot of those fans, you know, in my age demographic, a lot of those fans that kind of disappeared for a while briefly came back and started watching again when this thing with CM Punk went down. And people were saying it's like the Attitude Era is starting to come back. You've got this character CM Punk that's heading this up and saying the things that he's saying. And then as months have gone by, the interest once again is diluting, but people keep talking about this Attitude Era. One person in particular who always talks about it is PS Power, and how they need to kind of have a more racy product. Now, my opinion is, and this is about the PG era, the PG era, in my opinion, is only hurting certain elements of the show, but it's not killing the business as people make it out to be. It's hurting things like Hell in a Cell, where that match was always sold to us as a barbaric, brutal, career-shortening, bloody, violent bloodbath match, and because of the PG rating and the no blood rule, that's somewhat been compromised. And I will tell you right now, there's a Hell in a Cell match with Cena, Del Rio and CM Punk, and to be honest with you, I don't really care to see it. There's a lot of things they can't do, there's a lot of language they can't use, there's a lot of things they can't do in some of the feuds now because of this PG rating. But you have to also remember that when WCW was at the height of its popularity, when the NWO angle happened and when they had the cruiserweights, that roster in '96, what people actually overlook and what people tend to forget is that WCW was a PG rated show back then, and it was a very successful show. It was very creative, there were some interesting characters, you had the great storyline with the NWO at the time, and you had all these other people kind of around it, and you had guys like Bill Goldberg coming up, all these exciting stars. So I don't fully buy into PG completely killing the entire industry and being a cancer to pro wrestling. I think that in a lot of ways I feel more comfortable with the PG rating, and PG doesn't necessarily guarantee crap. You can actually have some good family friendly television, but the problem is it's the way that the show is written. The show has no continuity. The stipulations mean nothing. The belts mean nothing. Wins and losses mean nothing. You have a lack of new stars and a lack of new concepts. The sport hasn't evolved, or the WWE hasn't evolved, and I don't know why you have an ignoramus like Triple H coming out making comments about, oh, we don't need to evolve, UFC needs to. Of course UFC needs to evolve, I'm not blind to that. WWE has needed to evolve for several years, and it's been very, very stale. But the point is, I don't necessarily think that the PG rating is what's killing wrestling. I think the way the show's been written, and I actually do, and I just want to point out, if people have been talking about how bad WWE programming has been over the last few years, I just want to point out that a lot of these people never, WWE wasn't PG in 2007, 2006, 2004, 2003, right after 2001. It was not PG. And it was still somewhat, people were complaining, oh, it's a bad show, it's a bad show, it's a bad show. People were not, there was no PG rating for you to blame it on. And I actually, didn't like some of the things in the Attitude Era. A lot of people, I mean, there's things about that era I like, but a lot of people go on and on and on and on and on about that time frame, like it was this golden age and this creative zenith for WWE. And you have to remember, while there was some good, there was a lot of crap during that time. And I want to point out a lot of crap during that time. You had Mark Henry touching up a transvestite. You had Mark Henry and Mae Young having that, God knows what they were trying to achieve with that. Mae Young stripping out and showing her spoiled egg breasts. You had Mae Young giving birth to a hand. You had the Katie Vick storyline, which I never want to see in a pro wrestling program ever again. You had nonsensical swerves. You had stipulations meaning absolute jack shit during that time frame. All these things that were really, really bad, and I guess with a PG rating, you kind of are prevented from having to see some of those embarrassing storylines. Now, people nowadays want to talk about, well, an Attitude Era Revival right now. Given the CM Punk nonsense that's been going on, promo that's been going on, and how they need to go back to the Attitude Era. And again, I don't think you go back in time. I think you move forward, you evolve, you modernize the product, you modernize the presentation, you modernize the image of your wrestlers. You don't go back in time. Granted, and I have said, you do go back and you look at what was successful about that era, and you try and implement that, but you modernize it. You don't go right back, let's turn the clock back to 1998, everyone. Let's get Mike Tyson to come back and punch out freaking CM Punk, and we'll create a new star that way. You just look at the things that were successful, you take those elements, and then you move forward, and you also look at what's missing right now. Anyways, those are my 2 cents. It's just like a little mini rant, I guess. Sorry I've been away for a while. My computer's been playing up. MMA exploded with all this news with Nick Diaz and George St. Pierre and Alistair Overeem and Brock Lesnar and John Jones and Quinton Jackson, and my laptop just blows up with it. So, couldn't have happened at a better time. Anyways, people out there, let me know what you think. This is somewhat rushed, so I apologize for it, but I want to know what people think about the PG rating and the Attitude Era itself, and an Attitude Era Revival. Is that the thing that's missing right now? Do we need elements of the Attitude Era back in WWE? Or is the PG rating something that's actually can be successful? Let me know what you think. Write some comments. Spread the video around. I want to kind of get people talking again. And I will be back probably tomorrow morning, because I've got another video planned about John Jones and Rashad Evans, and why I think pro wrestling could learn from that little storyline that we have going on right there. Anyways guys, I will be gone, and take care.